in 2021, a lot of our widespread threats began with a zero-day exploit, and that's an exploit for which no patch yet exists. So the reason for that is that attackers now have cyber weapons which can scan the entire internet, point out within a second what are all the vulnerable installations, all the vulnerable companies, and then try to go apply the exploit to break in. Those type of tools were not readily available to attackers 10, 12 years ago, but now they are. So the job of a defender became much, much harder. So what do you do? What do you do when the attack surface became more complicated, when 52% of the attacks in 2021 began with a zero-day exploit? What do you do to solve it? So I think that there are a couple of things that you could do to make sure that your organization is safe. Number one, you need to understand your attack surface. You need to understand how your external attack surface looks like, because that's how an attacker is going to break in. That's number one. Number two, when the patch comes out from a software vendor, you need to patch and apply it as soon as possible. And again, be able to rescan your entire attack surface to confirm that the patch is applied. Number three, you need to have proper network segmentation, kind of a zero trust approach, where you focus on resilience over robustness. You assume that the adversary can get in, and if you assume that the adversary can always get in, how do you make it as hard as possible for him to exfiltrate the data? Well, you encrypt your sensitive information, you segment the network, you put it behind a VPN, and you put multiple layers of authentication, MFA or no password type of authentication, to make it as hard for an attacker to get in. So you put resilience over robustness. You assume the adversary can get in, but then you make it almost impossible for him to exfiltrate the data. So to recap, zero-day threats are real. They're everywhere. I think it's a matter of sooner rather than later that an attacker gets into your network. So I recommend you to do 4 things. Number one, understand your attack surface from outside. Number two, have a program where you can patch as fast as possible. Number three, build your network with resilience in mind. And number four, encrypt your sensitive data and put it behind multiple layers of authentication. So that's the 4 things that you could do. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think we can do to protect from those zero-day attacks?